right, welcome everyone. My name is Rebecca Flores. I am with Generation Schools Network here with Kevin Healey from Battelle, and we are so excited to have you, Kevin. I want to thank you in advance or right now for taking the time out of your busy schedule to meet with us today and have this wonderful interview. You are a chemist, a second chemist researcher for Battelle, and much more. So we're going to get into that now. Kevin, how is your day going today?
Oh, it's great. I'm off for the day. I'm happy to talk to you guys.
Thank you so much for being here. So, first and foremost, if you can just give us a little bit about yourself and then we can just jump in.
Sure. As far as my work, I am
Yes.
a chemist at Battelle. I specialize in gas chromatography, and we're on working on a project. Well, we destroyed all the mustard gas bombs, and that the United States had in its arsenal, that we know of. And I've been doing this for about 6 years. We're now wrapping up the project. So all the bombs are now destroyed, and mustard gas is a terrible compound, and really, really grateful to have a part in that. So, but the path to get here has been really a lot of circuits. It's been like a capillary, not like a straight A to B line. So yeah, I'm excited to talk to everybody about that. Yeah.
I like that, like a capillary. That's a good way of putting it. So, what inspired you to pursue this career in the field that you're in?
Um, okay, so I started out really getting into art when I was a child. I was into painting, and I was told a lot by my peers and everything. I grew up in Essington, Pennsylvania, which is right outside of Philadelphia, and we used to tell each other things like, "Oh, math is hard. You're bad at math," things of that nature. Uh, so I grew up kind of believing that a little bit. So I leaned into art. I actually went to foundational year of school at University of the Arts for painting, and I apprenticed under an oil painter. And you know, uh, I decided after 1 year that it might be better to maybe pursue something else. So I went into manufacturing, which is fine, which is great. And I did that for about 5 years. And after a little while, I really missed the academic side of things. So I moved to Pueblo, Colorado. Ended up going to a community college, and I got a degree in English literature because I'm good at writing. I do it for fun. And through the English degree, I had to take classes in the maths and the STEM sciences, and I ended up taking up some classes in biology and and chemistry, and I ended up doing really well in those because I didn't have that peer group that was telling me, "Hey, this is going to be really hard. We can't do this." Um,
Mhm.
and once I found that love for that subject, I started really digging into it. And once I got my degree in English, I said, "You know what? I'm sorry, associates." I decided, you know what? I'm going to transfer to a 4 year, and I'm going to go for biology. So I got my degree in biology. It was hard, but I had to take minors in chemistry, and I found out that I was pretty good in chemistry. And chemistry is a huge component of biology. It's Biology is basically applied chemistry and how it
Mm.
works in your body. So um, I ended up finding work micropropagating trees, just taking little pieces of plant material, putting them into a growth media, and having them grow into full plants. And by the way, that was in Portland, Oregon, and I moved out there, and then my wife and son moved out there, and then to our shock, right before Christmas, the company was sued by WSU, Washington State University, and it folded overnight.
Wow.
So I said, "Oh
You're
no!"
okay, bye.
Yeah. So me and me and my wife and my son, who was 1 year old at the time, we took a drive back to Pueblo, Colorado, and we said, "Oh no, what do we do?" So we found out that Pueblo is home to a government facility that is destroying mustard gas. So I applied out there. I didn't get responses at first, but After being vigilant, I finally got a response, and it was for a chemical technician, which is now a defunct job in the lab. And I moved up quickly from that to hazardous waste. And That's a huge field that you can go into with the sciences. It's great. You're actually kind of being a steward for the environment by responsibly disposing of all these chemicals used in chemistry. And I found that to be fascinating. And then I moved up to Chemist One, and that is gas chromatography. And if you need me to elaborate on what that is, I'd be happy to. With a flame photometric detection, and that was awesome. And then I moved up to mass spectrometry, which is a gas chromatography with a mass selective detector on it, and I can go into that if you need me to. And then became a backup manager, and we finished the last bomb last summer. So right now, the we're at the sunset of this whole operation. So we'll see what comes next.
No, I like that you said sunset. So does that mean like the clouds have parted and here you are, mustard gas has parted in a sense? Is that what that means?
Oh yeah, yeah. What I mean is the project itself has a timeline, and it will be ending. I will be finished with this project in July. So I myself, like a lot of the students here, am in a position to find out where the path leads next.
Wow,
Hmm.
that's amazing. So can you tell me, I mean, mustard gas is huge. Is there a milestone that you can say? I've heard a lot of the hurdles and things like that. So thank you so much for sharing that because a lot of our students go through paths like this exactly, and they are not sure where to go or who to talk to or who to lean on. Or so I love that you're mentioning those things. But a key milestone or achievement in your career journey, getting here, I know mustard gas would be. Thank you so much for that because a lot of us never knew. We just know mustard to eat, not mustard gas. So
Yeah.
thank you for that.
Oh, sure. Mustard gas was a terrible chemical used in war, and it has no place in being used against human beings. So it's a blistering agent, and it's meant to give you skin lesions, all kinds of terrible things.
Right.
Sorry.
Yeah. I just Googled that when you were saying it. So I shouldn't have done that actually, but
Uh,
I see that. I see that.
Right, right. So a key point in my career that was kind of like a sea change, is that what you're asking?
Mhm.
Oh, okay. So I'd say that it was in biology when I was going through. What inspired me to get into biology is I actually have a wife who has a juvenile diabetes, type 1 diabetes, and I thought, and don't be afraid to dream big. I thought, you know what, if I could only have some kind of hand, even if I could pour coffee, like for the researchers that are trying to cure this disease, maybe I could help in that way. So I went for biology to help my wife with her juvenile diabetes, and maybe even like help find a cure with and believe it or not, that's a very, very I didn't realize how ambitious that really was. So I ended up just getting really into the natural sciences, and once I started pursuing my career, it ended up being nothing but biology. So this turned into the chemist pathway has really, really changed the trajectory of my life. I mean, we can go in any direction right now, and all those things I mentioned into hazardous waste, project management, principal scientist, even a field technician going out and fixing these instruments that need to be fixed all over the country, So it really the main goal is it's kind of like chasing a squirrel, It's the chase that's really important. You keep moving, and you never know where that path's going to lead you. It might not lead you to the squirrel, but it'll lead you somewhere better as long as you keep moving.
Mm. I mean, hey, and how did you hear about Pueblo before you're so far away?
Oh yeah, yeah, from Philadelphia. Well,
Uh-huh.
I moved my mother down here. She was getting treatments down here, and we had extended family. And the first thing I thought when I got to Pueblo was, I need to get out of here. And then, which, wasn't fair. It wasn't fair because I didn't meet the people here. And of course, I met my wife here, and that's a big part of me staying. But the town itself is just it's a wonderful place. It gets a terrible rap, but um, you do sometimes you don't have all the resources that you think you'd need to succeed, but they're really there. They are there. It's you get out what you put in, and it's just a wonderful city. Yeah, I
Yeah.
love it to death.
Pueblo is known for paskies. Have you had paskies?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, they're great.
Yeah, that's one thing that I every time they're like, "Have you tried a pasky yet?" And I'm like, You have to. You just have to."
Oh yeah,
So,
do. Pesky special. Huh?
yes.
Oh
So
yeah.
that's awesome. Kevin, I'm having such a great time. So another question that I have is, what is the biggest challenges that you have faced in your profession here at Battelle, or just you could share for Battelle or just prior to that?
Okay, the biggest challenge certainly was being a new father. Yeah, I'll go. uh, uh, Yeah, I'll go with that. Um, so being a new father and having WSU sue the company that I was in, and finding myself without a job suddenly with a
Mm.
baby boy in a city that we had no family was incredibly scary. But I had a sense that something was wrong ahead of time. And when you smell smoke, there may be fire. So what I did when I started seeing that some of the principal scientists on the project started oh, they just left their job before Christmas. That's weird. And I saw it happen with a couple of other people. What I did was I went to a temp agency and just put my name in there and I said, "Hey, I might be looking for a job. I'm not sure about that." But so I did, and lo and behold, I lost my job. I bellyached for a day, and I had a job the next day. And that's really where my chemistry path started because they called me, what they call me, a gravimetric technician. And if you want to know how complicated of a job a gravimetric technician is in science, you take these little discs of filter paper and you weigh them, and then you write down that weight and you do it alone in a room for about 8 or 9 hours. And I thought, wow, this is the opposite of exhilarating. But you know what? It ended up that in the other room, there was a scientist who helped revolutionize the field of XRF, X-ray. It's sort of like X-ray detection for trace metals, and he
Okay.
invented a way to deposit samples on a thin film. And he only had he had a high school degree, but he ended up being self-taught and revolutionizing the field. And he was in his 60s, and he gave me all of his notes and all of his presentations. And I really, really, really got my passion for chemistry from that lab. And it had all the bad things not happen, that never would have happened. I never would have been on this crazy project I'm on now.
Wow, that is awesome. Like you said, it's kind of now I when you're saying it, when you smell smoke, there must be fire. And
Mhm.
so what I love about that is sometimes our students will stay longer than they need to
Mhm.
in positions or places, or thinking that, I don't have anywhere else to go. And again, just like you said, Kevin, how there's options there. You just have to look. And I think that's really important. I would like to just point that out because again, had you not had that situation, you wouldn't be able to have met this wonderful man who revolutionized something and get all the I mean, that's like prized possession. Somebody like, here, take all that I have learned. Like, I feel like the moment.
I was shocked that he would do that. And I said, I'll keep it safe. I have a 1-year-old, but I'll keep it away from him.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, no one touched this. So I love that. Thank you for sharing because that also it talks about your integrity when you're working with people. And I mean, first you're in a room all by yourself and then you're not. But that I'm glad you're not there because that
Yeah.
can thinking, I guess. But
Mm.
um moving on or moving forward from that, I love how you just mentioned that. So it's something and you mentioned temp agencies. So something that I wanted to pause at is you smelled smoke, there must be fire. You planned a little bit ahead. You were able to have a job the very next day. And
Right.
so can you just how did you realize or get your intuition or focus on being able to like smell the smoke and then just
Oh,
kind of be
oh, I'm
throwing
sorry.
something out there for students? I'm sorry.
Oh no, I understand your question. I think it's the intuition you have. Like I tell my son this, and he's 7 years old. If you sense that something is not safe, you're usually right. And
Mm,
when it's time to leave, you often have things you're working on impulses that I've seen this before in a different context, but there's something wrong, and I shouldn't be here. Whether it be like an alleyway or a scary a place or like a person that you meet and you're like, hey, I don't think they have the right intention. It's that sort of feeling that I don't feel that things are okay. And I think it's important not to become paranoid, but to really like listen to that sort of sense that I think we're innately is built into us. Like, something's not right. Even if you can't articulate exactly what that is, sometimes it's good to just put out a safety net. It's always good to have a safety net, but
yeah.
in that instance, I was right.
Yeah, thank you for that. I wanted just to shine on that just a little bit. And then at Battelle, can you just describe um, a typical day in the life of Kevin Healy at Battelle?
Sure, yeah. So I'll come in, and the first thing I do is I work with any number of instruments, depends on who's there. I'll maybe have like 5 or 6 instruments, may have 3 instruments, but the first thing I do is go into there and calibrate my instruments, which is basically you want to make sure that they're at optimal performance, and I'll test them and make sure that they're able to detect what I'm looking for. At that point, and I do that very early because it's better to get your define your if you're going to have a problem early, so you could deal with it early, and then be able to move forward later. And after that, I have sample technicians come in, and they'll bring us air quality samples, whether it be tubes that we load into our instrument, and it's superheated and fired through the instrument, and then we go through the process of detecting and then write a report at the end of that. Or it'll be liquid samples. See, what is really cool and where the biology comes into this project is one of the cool things that we had done with the mustard gas is we actually filled these mustard gas. We put the mustard gas in these tanks filled with water and microbes, and the microbes would eat the mustard gas and hydrolyze it and turn it into a compound called hydrolysate. So they would send us the hydrolysate to see where we were in the process of, say, if how much mustard gas is still in this, right? And then once it got down to a negligible level, we would then move on and refill the tank, etc. And then it was a closed system, so we treated that water after that, and it was purified, and it later turned into drinking water. So this was like a kind of a closed system, which was super super cool. Um, yeah, and then oh man, I had something else really cool to tell you too, but I just lost it. But yeah, also we have static detonation chambers where the army would explode them. Oh, and then I would have to work under pressure a lot of the times because this is under an international treaty. So you would have people from France, you would have people from Africa, you would have people from all kinds of representatives from different countries that come to watch you do your work to make sure that it's being done in the way you said as a part of the international treaty. You're not supposed to really talk to them too much. I mean, besides small talk, you can't. Oh man, I do have one story. My first day at this lab just so happened to coincide with a new commander coming onto the base. And I work on an army base, and every morning I go in, and there are people with machine guns, just kind of making sure I am who I am. I have my badge. Okay, you check out. So I get to work, and my first day, I'm by myself in a sample receipt room, and at that point, a one of these this general walks in with like two of and they're in full military regalia and about five people with them, and then there's someone bringing me a sample, and I was trained to receive samples at that point, and I said, is this every day? Is it going to be like this? And I, I received the sample, and I'm like, almost, I was really, what is going on? Where am I working now? Um, And then I receive it and they leave. And then they were like, you had to receive that with the general in there? That's never happened. I'm like, oh, I don't, for all I know, this happens every day. Um, but we had to have M40 masks, which are military grade masks. And we would also, we would have a lot of contingencies where things might go wrong. And we would have to put these military masks on in a moment's notice. It was really a kind of a high stress, high throughput environment right out of the gate, you know. Sorry, gotta be.
No, I love that. No, I have stories all the time. Go ahead. And then the other one that you forgot, I want it to come back. So when it does, just
Sure.
stop me.
Oh, it was
So,
the foreign dignitary thing.
oh, sweet.
Yeah, having to work with someone from a different country watching you and taking notes. I don't I can parallel park like a champion unless someone's watching me. So yeah,
Oh,
I've learned.
that is so, why is that so true?
I don't know.
The stress is on. I'm like, "Oh."
Yeah, yeah.
Um, so Kevin, thank you for that. What about well, you kind of gave more specific details and qualities that you've done in here. Have you ever been had to go on the field with your chemists to type stuff or just in the laboratories or the labs?
Yeah, this particular work down chemistry can take you all over the place, especially in environmental chemistry or limnology. You go out, you take soil samples, whether it be for like oil projects or water quality projects or for the EPA or things like that. Field chemists tend to go out in the field and collect samples. What happens at this place, since it's like a closed system, we have people that go out and collect the samples for us and then bring it to us
Hmm,
because it's
okay.
a 24-hour operation, which is why we have such a strange schedule where it's 12 and a half hour days, 12 and a half hour nights. It's just so the least amount of people can just cover this place 24 hours a day. So if we
Right.
have a hit or there's we would monitor things, a vast array of things. And one of the things we would do is monitor the breathing air for people in what they call DPE suits, where it's basically a self-contained, kind of like a scuba diver, where they're puffed up and they walk into the munitions room. And sometimes there could be breaches in their breathing air. And if that were to happen, we would know before it got to be a problem, and we would have them out of there in a moment.
Wow. So how important is communication in your field?
Oh, it's incredibly important
Yeah.
to be able to, if you have especially if you have a problem. You can't be that kind of person that says, I have no faults, I never make mistakes. If, say, a mistake happens or you see or if you see an issue, it's important to say something immediately. Even if you didn't actually make a mistake or it was something else, if something feels wrong, like I said earlier, you say something. That's very important. And in this case, it could have saved lives and people's health so yeah, it's very, very important.
So
Communication.
Kevin, something that Generation Schools Network, well, the team that I work with, it's the College and Career Readiness team. We work off of some of the most needed skills, which is leadership, integrity, and communication. So you did talk about integrity a little bit. You did talk about the communication. What about leadership in your role? How important do you feel like from the get-go, from listening to people to actually working in this position, unlearning what somebody had taught you about math and unlearning certain things to get to your position now, trusting your intuition? Like, how does leadership play a big role in your role?
Okay, well, having the wherewithal, or not wherewithal, the say interest in what you're doing and wanting to learn as much as you can about it, I think is the key step in a leadership position. Because I mean, if something goes wrong, you learn how to fix it, and then you analyze it out loud or in your head later. What could have been done better, to better prepare you to lead others through like events like that. Um, and ironically, my first day as acting manager of the lab, we had our very first site-wide contingency. And I learned that very day, that when we had a practice run where all of the lab was to exit, um, uh, I was the floor warden. I didn't know that. So I was I usually will lead maybe about 8 people. So I was the floor warden for lab operations, which essentially turns out to be about 50 or some people pouring out of buildings. And we go to this parking lot, and I'm wearing this vest, and I've never done this before. I have a walkie-talkie. I'm telling the control room, and in my 5 years at that point, I had never gone through anything like this. So a lot of issues arose. It went fine. I think one of the key things is to, if everything's an emergency, nothing is. It's just you have to handle one thing at a time. What is the most important thing? Let's knock that down. Instead of looking at this huge array of issues and being like, I need to solve everything. It's overwhelming. You find the most prescient problem and you deal with it immediately. So that's what we did. We did a site-wide, a lab-wide sweep. We went out to the parking lot. I ended up having some issues, and then I ended up see what would make that a bad thing is if see the issues did happen. I'm trying not to be too specific because that's why I'm
Right.
fumbling with some of my words a little bit.
No, you're fine.
I don't want to give too many things up, but we had some issues, right? And then I could have just let it lie, but we had what we called a hot wash with the big managers afterwards of the whole entire campus. And, you know, things that we didn't think would be a problem unless we went through these motions of a fake emergency arose. And I think by vocalizing these things, we made the process better. I think like, don't be afraid to look silly or foolish. I think that's the issue. It's better to look silly and foolish than be silly and foolish. When
Mhm.
problems arise, it's better not to hide them. It's better to bring them out in the open, and then you could deal with, hey, well, how do we make this process better? This happened.
Mhm. Maybe would that also be like delegation if somebody sees something and they're better equipped to handle it, even though you're the lead,
Right.
it could be, hey, I see that you can do this better than I can. Like I would love for you to take that. If something were to come about, you're ready to go and that's your lead. I mean delegation as a leader to be able to delegate because you can't what is that quote? Master of none. Oh, I just
Oh, a master of all trades. Wait, a jack of all trades, but a master. Wait. Oh, I know what you're.
something like that. But like you could be great at so many things, but not everything.
Right.
And that's why we work so well with building a great team, a team that's trustworthy, a team that has the good communication, a team that's able to flow, but also can take instructions from the lead. So I think that you were trying to also say some parts in that because you were talking about other people, but just being able to work well with others
Yes.
and see the problem, see the need, meet the need.
Right, because like a team is like water. You're gonna have different members of the team fill in these small gaps that maybe some other people in the team. You got to be able to recognize other people, the qualities in other people that maybe you don't have.
Yes.
The life isn't a competition really when it comes down to it. When you're working as a team, everybody is going to have a strength that maybe some other people do not have. Like I have some people that are go-to for, say, technical issues with the computer or the LIMS system, the laboratory information management systems, which you'll see in all across all scientific fields. You'll see one of those, and they'll all be different. But she's just a wizard with that. So I would always go to this person for that issue. others for maybe like extraction issues, things of that nature. So everybody does have a clear and apparent talent if you say take the time to like really look.
Yeah, getting to know your teams is really important as a leader too. So that's thank you for that. Um, what advice would you give to someone starting out in your profession?
Okay. I would say don't be afraid to take the job that doesn't interest you. Getting your foot in the door is a really big deal. And like I said, I started off as a chemical technician, and that's just basically taking inventory of chemicals within the lab. But you're always going to have people in that lab that will, you know, your interest will guide you. Like
Mm,
just getting the foot in the door, identifying the field you want to be in, and getting your foot in the door in any capacity is really a great step forward.
yeah, thank you for that. And
Mhm.
how we talked about this a little bit earlier. How important is networking for the positions, getting into your positions?
It's incredibly important. Your mentors are there to help you. And a lot of the times you'll have jobs that'll have thousands of applicants, and sometimes it comes down to a lot of the time it comes down to the interpersonal connections that you make that make the real impression. So yeah, I think doing mentoring events, maybe signing up for like career fairs, going out and meeting people, that's one of the most important things to landing your next big move, big gig, wherever you may want to go.
Yeah, thank you, Kevin. So can you tell us how you handle, because you have 12-hour days and 12-hour nights, how do you handle work-life balance? If there
Oh,
is a thing for for that or the healthy work life.
right. That's a good question. That's a challenging one. I like that. Well, we do get a week off every month. Okay, so that's one of the great things about this sort of thing. The week that I'm on currently, it kind of throws your circadian rhythm just completely off. And to be honest with you, I've endured it for 6 years, but I will never do it again. And I'll look back on this one day and think, how did I do that? I think the key is to really take the days off and uh, kind of recharge and use them to like kind of reset before you go back in. And
Mm,
I haven't met anybody that really does well on the schedule. It's called a DuPont schedule. I think it was initiated by the DuPont company, and they had since taken it out of use. Um, and there's one thing I wanted to add as far as like looking for jobs. A lot of the times people might go for the higher paying jobs without thinking of the content of the jobs. And I found that a lot of the more, say like, you got to be true to what your morals are, because a lot of the
mm,
times, either if the pay is very high, it's either that the skill set involved is well, that's not even the case sometimes, but there are a lot of morally dubious jobs out there that pay very, very, very well. You got to think about what you want to do to make the world a better place. I think that has to be a part of the equation. And I could make moves that would make me and my family pretty rich, like, but it you really, really got, this is one thing my advisor, he was this was a geneticist, kind of instilled in me, and it's really translated into this field that I'm in right now, chemistry. And I'm not going to tell you what those morals should be, but whatever they are, I think feeling good about what you do is very, very important.
mm, absolutely agree with that.
Hmm.
Can you give an example for yourself? Um, what is a non-negotiable for you in the workplace? Like I didn't take this job. You don't have to necessarily out, but a non-negotiable for you to just elaborate a little bit more on that.
Sure. I'd say, well, I have a personal issue with, say, helping along or helping to develop, say, like weapons of mass destruction. That's not something that I think I want to have on my a conscious. I mean, and there are different perspectives, and mine may not be the correct one, but it is mine. And
Right, it's yours. Hmm.
you're right. And I could easily go into that field from this position, ironically, destroying munitions to actually creating the worst ones in the whole entire world. but that's not something I can do. So that
Yeah,
would
no,
be non-negotiable.
yeah, that's valid. Thank you so much for that.
Sure.
And I mustard gas alone scares the, I just found out what that was. So
Oh,
that's something, like I know, I understand where you're coming from. So I appreciate that.
sure.
And how about when there's in your field, maybe this would be something to elaborate or non-elaborate, but when it comes to like feedback, positive or negative, of how you control the situation or something took place in a situation because you were dealing with such crazy chemicals, like what is that? How do you take that feedback as the leader that you're in a chemist to situation in your workplace?
Right. Okay. So I told you I started in English, and hopefully I don't botch this answer too bad, but I don't have this prepared. But so there's a book that I like by Lao Tzu, and he says a great man, and it could be woman or it could be anyone. A great person is like a great nation, and they see their enemy as their most benevolent teacher. Once you an enemy there, it would be in quotes, because people that um, point out flaws, say in the things you do. I think it's human nature to instantly become defensive and be like, hey, you're attacking me. When in reality, even if their intentions aren't that great, they'll be pointing out things about yourself perhaps that you do not see that are important as perspective to really examine. So your question was, how do you take that feedback and create good? It's to take it seriously and really, really remember that you are capable and sometimes great at flaws. Like we all have flaws. We all have flaws, and I think one of the important things is to recognize them and look to remedy them moving forward, whether it be a work practice or a life practice.
Thank you for that. Now, in that, I'd like to, I mean, you work with worldwide, nationwide, I should say, or worldwide, nationwide. How does that also work? Because you have, I mean, from generals walking in to hand you something to a, I'm not sure, not so general up there, but how does that work in the sense of like strategy or initiative or sustainability when it comes to what you do, receiving things all around the world?
Um, I'm sorry. I
Does
don't.
the, well, does the, I guess the, how does it strategically work? Like, they're taking notes on what you're doing. Do they give you feedback from that? Or do they say, oh, I do this over here in my world, in my country, this is what we do? Or like, how does it all flow together?
Oh, that situation, I see what you're getting at. Being like sort of like being aware of cultural differences and things of that nature. Is that what you're getting at?
Yeah, because I'm assuming like the way they do it in a different country is not always the same, or maybe there's different tactics, or do you learn from them? Do they learn from you and taking notes, or do they just like, I dropped this off and I'm headed out? No one, you know,
Oh yeah,
because
yeah.
that's a big deal.
That scenario, and it was always nerve-wracking, even if it was the simplest task. It's almost like your mind becomes static. At least mine. I was just like, oh my gosh, I'm being watched. That it was more of an observation thing, just to make sure that our treaty, as far as the United States, was being fulfilled for the
Right.
international
Because
body.
that's a lot on your shoulders or on somebody's shoulders that's doing that?
Oh yeah, yeah. It was super intimidating, but a lot of the times the people were sweet. Every once in a while they would really kind of
Not be
flex
so
that
sweet.
power. Yeah, just don't mess up, and it'd be like,
Yeah,
oh boy. But we weren't really supposed to interact too much. But the more I worked there, I learned you could pretty well
you could
interact.
say hello.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. So did you try pesky? Like, you should, like
Yeah,
that sort of thing.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
that's awesome. So, what kind of advice would you give to students watching this, going back and understanding that you did take a different road to get where you are, and just to encourage them to
Yeah,
from your field that they're.
I love that question. So in your say foundational years of college, they're going to make you take classes that you may not want to take, but it's really about your attitude, and it doesn't matter if you're going to an Ivy League school or a local college. You get out what you put in. And college is a lot different than high school. And I don't say that to intimidate you so much as to inspire you, because in college, it's really on you to set what the standards are, you know. And sometimes if you keep an open mind and say you take that calculus class and you're like, oh my gosh, this is terrible. Everybody learns differently. Perhaps you'll enter into that class and be like, you know what? This isn't so hard. Matter of fact, this is fascinating, and I want to learn more about it. Why is the area under the curve important? How did that get us to the moon? Like things of that nature. You're going to find physics classes you're going to have to take. You're going to find literature classes that they're going to make you take. Just different humanities like history, whatever. All of them inform each other. That's one thing I learned from college is that all of them are related. They're just kind of sectioned off into these little like distinct morsels that they give you packets. But they are all interrelated. And if you're good at one thing, you may find out you're better at another when you go to college. So really, your first 2 years are very foundational. And just listen to your heart. Like you're going to be really good at what you're interested in, and maybe you just don't realize that you're that interested in it yet.
Yeah, I love that. I love that so much. And something that I appreciate from you, Kevin, is you actually saw a need from your wife that made you want to get into something and do your best to change the outcome for her. And so that led you on a different path, or maybe a similar path that you would have gone in potentially. So is there something that I like to tell my kids too, like if you see a need, how can you meet that need?
Right.
And um, so we talked about that a little bit earlier. What else is there something that, or anything else that you would like to add in closing?
Oh, sure. Okay, so since you mentioned the interest in biology, starting with my wife with type 1 diabetes, on your fourth year, you're going to have to do what's called a senior thesis, where you basically come up with a problem, and mine would have been, say, like juvenile diabetes, and then you come up with, using the scientific method, a solution. So mine, and I'm not going to make this too involved, initially was, okay, how about we tissue culture the thymus gland, and kind of regenerate it and have it produce islet cells. Okay, but it was this involved like process, and I felt so good about myself. And I couldn't find an advisor that knew too much about type 1 diabetes, so I took it to her endocrinologist, and he looked at my thesis. He's like, "Oh," he's like, and he was from India, and very direct and blunt and hilarious. But he says, "Oh, this what you need to do with this is take it, burn it, and bury it in a very deep hole." I said, "Oh no."
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. But he thoughtfully poked holes in it, to the point where I was like, "Oh no!" And I had to change my entire thesis mid year. But it ended up being a great senior thesis, nevertheless. But I really did take his expertise and input seriously. So yeah, that's how I
Yeah.
got out of that field, I guess.
Oh, we could, okay. I I won't go there. I have more
Oh,
questions.
oh, oh,
But
okay.
that's a great example of you being able to take the criticism of somebody that knew a little bit, probably more than you at the time,
Yes.
and were able to be like, maybe. I mean,
Yeah.
you could have stepped, you could have still took it and ran with it, but it made you look at something a little bit more differently, or pick up something else that you're like, oh, come over here in this level. And
Yeah. It made me realize I didn't have the mentors that I would need to have in order to defend a thesis of that nature. I mean, I could always go to it's never too late. You could always go to like grad school or something like that with something like that. But I realized I didn't really have you know, the ducks in a row to really get that idea moving.
Hmm. But at least you learned. At
Oh
least
yeah,
you were exposed.
and yeah,
So,
adapt.
go ahead.
And then adapted to it and say, okay, it's not the end of the world. I could do something better.
Yeah. So being like a bamboo instead of an oak,
Yes,
being able
flex.
to bend.
Yes, we say that to my son all of the time. Yeah, yeah, yeah. A palm tree instead of an oak is what we use. Yeah.
Yeah, palm tree, because a palm tree, their roots are as deep as their level of growth
Hmm.
forward. So that's why you don't see a lot of them in the hurricanes come out because their roots are really deep, real
Heck
strong.
yeah. Heck yeah.
Okay, that's true. I like that. Instead, we got the same similar.
Yeah.
Thanks, Kevin. That makes you my friend. I appreciate that.
Oh, you're welcome.
So thank you so much. I know our time is coming to an end. I just want to say again, thank you so much for the time that you've taken to speak to us today. And if is there anything else that you wanted to mention before we head out or conclude anything?
Yeah, sure. If any of your kids have any questions, they could direct them to you and you could direct them to me. I'd be happy to answer at any time. And if you guys need anything, let me
Awesome.
know.
Awesome. Thank you so much for pouring your wisdom into us. My mind has been blown. I have notes to Google after, so my facial expressions do not scare anybody.
Oh, not at
But
all.
I appreciate all of the input and guidance that you allowed us to have with you today. So, with that, we appreciate you, Kevin, and thank you to Battelle for allowing you and time for us today. And that's all we got to say about that, you guys. Thank you so much for being here with us today.